Ahmed had always been a careful man, the kind of person who double-checked doors, locks, and deadlines. But that evening, as he sat in his small study, sipping lukewarm tea, nothing he had done before could have prepared him for what appeared on his phone. It began as a soft vibration on the desk, a familiar buzz, but when he glanced at the screen, he froze. God says, "Be careful. This is only for you, don't tell your family. Open urgently." The words seemed to shimmer, almost as if the light of the room bent around them. Ahmed blinked rapidly, certain that he was seeing things wrong. He turned the phone off and on again. The message remained. There was no sender listed. No number, no app, no email, just the message itself, direct and impossible to ignore. A cold shiver ran down his spine. His mind raced. It must be some sort of scam, he muttered to himself, but even as he said it, the uneasy feeling deep in his chest refused to fade. His rational mind argued against it, but instinct whispered otherwise. This is real. This is important. This is for you. Ahmed set the cup of tea down, hands slightly trembling, and obeyed the message. He pressed the "Open" button, and the screen blinked before revealing a single line of text. Tonight, danger walks in your home disguised as a friend. Protect the children, protect the heart of your house. The words burned themselves into his mind. His family was safe now, he reasoned. They were all in the living room, chatting, laughing, completely unaware of any threat. His younger siblings played video games while his parents discussed mundane matters. Nothing seemed amiss, yet the warning clung to him like a second skin. Ahmed tried to think logically. Who could this danger be? There had been no news of crime in their neighborhood, no unusual disturbances. And yet the certainty in the message, an invisible insistence, made him pause. He recalled that earlier in the day, his brother Omar had invited a new friend over, a man with a charming smile and an easy laugh who had quickly become a fixture in the household. Ahmed had felt a subtle unease about him, but he had shrugged it off as suspicion born from unfamiliarity. Now, every word of the warning echoed in his mind, disguised as a friend. That phrase seemed to point directly to Omar's visitor. Ahmed's heart beat faster. Could it really be possible? Could someone who seemed so ordinary harbor dark intentions? He put down the phone and began observing the living room from the study doorway. His eyes swept over each family member, noting the soft glow of the television on their faces, the rhythmic tapping of fingers on the game controllers, the laughter that seemed oblivious to the night outside. Ahmed felt an almost painful tension, like watching a storm form behind a calm sky. Every small movement of the visitor seemed magnified in his mind. The phone buzzed again, interrupting his thoughts. Another message appeared. Trust your instincts. Watch, wait, then act. Your obedience will save what you love most. Ahmed's breathing quickened. Obedience. That word felt heavy, as if it were more than a suggestion. There was no room for delay or discussion. The message implied he was the only one who could act, the only one who could see what was coming. The idea of shielding his family without alarming them was terrifying. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, heavier than anything he had ever carried. He considered calling someone, anyone, but immediately dismissed it. The message had been clear. This was only for him. Sharing it might somehow nullify its power, or worse, put the family in greater danger. Ahmed realized he was being asked to act alone, to trust his instincts, and to watch carefully. Hours crept by. Ahmed couldn't focus on work. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow cast by the swaying branches outside the window, made him tense. He imagined countless scenarios, some absurd, some terrifyingly plausible. What if it was a break-in? What if the visitor had more sinister motives than he could imagine? What if the danger wasn't physical at all but something more subtle, something that required vigilance and cunning? The sun dipped below the horizon, and the room grew darker, shadows stretching across the walls. Ahmed's family began preparing dinner, unaware of the storm brewing in the mind of the young man who had been chosen to guard them tonight. He positioned himself strategically near the living room entrance, silently counting breaths, measuring distances, memorizing the layout in case he had to act quickly. He checked the windows and locks, feeling a mixture of fear and empowerment. The message had given him purpose, clarity amid the unknown. Despite the uncertainty, he felt guided by something larger than himself, a force that had singled him out, whispered a warning, and now expected action. Ahmed's thoughts drifted briefly to faith and prayer. He had always been a believer, but never like this, not with a direct, urgent command addressed personally to him. By nightfall, the visitor Omar had brought earlier still lingered in the living room, chatting easily with the family. Ahmed observed quietly, his gaze sharpening. Something about the way the man moved, the way he laughed a beat too long at a joke, the casual way he brushed past his family members, all seemed slightly off. Ahmed knew instinctively that he had to wait, to watch, to discern. Acting too soon could create panic, acting too late could bring disaster. Another message appeared, though it was delayed, as if timed for the darkest part of the evening. You will know the moment. Then act swiftly. Do not hesitate. Courage will protect the innocent. Ahmed's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. The words resonated with a power he could not explain. Courage, protection, action. These were not just words. They were instructions, commands, a map through a night that might otherwise have been ordinary. He felt both terrified and strangely calm, as if guided by invisible hands, each heartbeat syncing with a rhythm he couldn't hear but could feel. As night deepened, Ahmed's vigilance became almost instinctual. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of light was analyzed, catalogued, and interpreted. He did not move, did not speak, but his senses were heightened beyond what he thought possible. The world around him seemed sharper, the ordinary hum of life replaced by a quiet, watchful tension that made even the familiar frighteningly unfamiliar. Ahmed glanced at the phone one last time before slipping it into his pocket. The messages had stopped, but their urgency remained. He understood now that this night would demand every ounce of his courage, every bit of his awareness. The responsibility placed upon him by a higher power was heavy, but he accepted it without question. He would watch, he would wait, and when the moment came, he would act. For his family, for the house, for the unseen force that had entrusted him with this mission. The night had only begun, and Ahmed knew it would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. The night seemed endless. Ahmed stayed vigilant, crouched silently near the living room doorway, every muscle tense, senses heightened beyond normal limits. His family's laughter and chatter felt distant now, like echoes from another world. Each footstep, each shift of air, every faint sound outside made him flinch, heart hammering. He hadn't moved for hours, and yet he knew that the moment of danger could strike at any second. The clock ticked past midnight, and a peculiar stillness fell over the house. The familiar suburban sounds outside, the hum of distant traffic, the rustle of leaves, were muted, as if the night itself was holding its breath. Ahmed's gaze was fixed on the front door. He had taken every precaution. Windows checked, doors locked, lights dimmed to avoid drawing attention. Yet, instinct told him that the visitor was no ordinary intruder. This was someone who had entered the house freely before, someone who could move seamlessly among his family. Suddenly, a faint creak from the porch made Ahmed's blood run cold. He froze, breath caught in his throat. The visitor. That was the only explanation. He peeked through the peephole. There, under the faint glow of the porch light, stood the man, Omar's friend, the one who had seemed so ordinary during the day. Now, in the harsh night shadows, his demeanor was different. He moved slowly, deliberately, carrying a large duffel bag that didn't belong to a casual visitor. There was an intensity in his eyes, a cold focus that made Ahmed's stomach twist. Ahmed knew he had to act, but carefully. One wrong move, one false sound, and everything could fall apart. He remembered the messages. Trust your instincts. Watch, wait, then act. He took a slow, steadying breath, counting silently to 10. His mind raced through possibilities. Why was the man here? What was in the bag? The visitor could have weapons, or tools for breaking in. The threat was real, immediate. Ahmed's hands tightened into fists, but he remained silent, observing. Minutes felt like hours. The man moved closer to the window, crouching slightly, testing the latch. Ahmed's pulse thundered in his ears. He felt a strange mix of fear and empowerment, as though some unseen force guided him, as if every nerve in his body had been sharpened for this moment. His mind flashed back to the divine instruction, courage will protect the innocent. Courage, that was all he needed. Courage, and precision. Ahmed slowly retrieved a flashlight from the drawer he had stashed it in earlier. He kept it low, hidden behind his body, and crept toward the front door. Every step was deliberate, silent, measured. His heart threatened to betray him with its rapid beating, but he focused, grounding himself in the mission he had been given. He had to stop this intruder without alarming the family, or worse, letting the intruder enter and harm them. As he reached the doorway, the man's shadow moved in sudden, jerky motions. Ahmed's mind screamed at him to act. He took a deep breath and shouted, "Hey! What are you doing?" The sound cut through the night like a whip. The man froze, eyes widening in shock. For a split second, Ahmed felt a surge of panic. What if the intruder reacted violently? But instead, the man turned and bolted into the darkness, dropping the duffel bag in his haste. Ahmed didn't chase him. He stayed near the door, chest heaving, as adrenaline surged through his body. Moments later, his father, alerted by the shout, rushed out. "Ahmed, what's happening?" he asked, voice tight with concern. Ahmed explained, breathless, recounting every detail of the man's movements, the bag, the premonition that had guided him. His father's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, and then to dawning alarm. They retrieved the duffel bag, and inside, to their horror, were burglary tools and masks, proof that this man had intended to harm the family. It became clear that the warning Ahmed had received was no ordinary premonition. It had been a divine intervention, a shield against disaster. The family gathered in the living room, shaken but safe. Ahmed's mother clutched his shoulder, whispering words of gratitude and relief. His younger siblings stared at him with awe and curiosity, sensing something extraordinary had occurred but unable to understand it fully. The visitor, once friendly, now exposed, had been a threat only Ahmed could see and act against. In the aftermath, as the police arrived and took statements, Ahmed remained quietly in the background, the weight of what had happened pressing upon him. He had been chosen to receive the warning, to interpret it, and to act decisively. It was a responsibility unlike any other, a secret burden that no one else could share. The divine messages had not only warned him but had guided him every step of the way, sharpening his instincts and giving him the courage to protect his family. Even as the adrenaline faded, Ahmed felt a lingering sense of awe. The world felt different now. Shadows seemed sharper, sounds more deliberate, and the presence of an unseen protector more palpable. He realized that some warnings were not meant to be shared, some truths reserved for those strong enough to act alone. This night had been a test of faith, courage, and discernment, and he had passed it. Hours later, when the house finally settled into quiet, Ahmed sat in his study again, phone in hand. He scrolled through the empty message thread, no new alerts, nothing but silence. Yet the memory of the warning, the urgency, and the sense of being watched over remained. He whispered a prayer of thanks, acknowledging that he had been guided, chosen, and protected. Ahmed knew one thing clearly: life would never feel ordinary again. He had glimpsed a layer of reality that most people never encountered, a realm where divine messages could intervene in the smallest yet most critical moments. And though the night had been terrifying, he felt empowered, ready to face whatever might come next with vigilance, courage, and unwavering trust in the unseen hand that had saved his family. As dawn crept over the horizon, casting soft light over the familiar house, Ahmed finally allowed himself to breathe fully. His family was safe, the intruder gone, and the secret burden he carried had proven its worth. The night's events had taught him that sometimes, the most extraordinary messages are the ones you keep to yourself, the ones that test your courage, and the ones that, when obeyed, protect those you love most. Ahmed placed the phone gently on the desk, staring at the blank screen. He knew the messages might return someday, but for now, silence reigned. Yet the awareness lingered. He was never truly alone, and sometimes, the most urgent calls require action guided by faith, patience, and a courage that transcends fear. The house was safe, but Ahmed understood that the vigilance, obedience, and discernment he had shown tonight would always be a part of him. And in that quiet morning light, he felt a profound gratitude, knowing that some secrets are meant to remain unspoken, some warnings meant to be received alone, and some acts of courage, though unseen by the world, are remembered by something far greater than oneself.